chapter 9. Vavishamla Sangha Kelana Maharangam Samathan Vatim Vringara Vyanjaladimir Vyajinim Kutrap Yanaprashtitam Ukte Kinchit Anutta Evakem Api Premnanisham Urvatim Arya Priyameva Purna Paramanande Udantimamu. Sometimes the Pramsakya Radharani expertly makes arrangements for Sri Shyamasundara's sporting pastimes. Sometimes she walks behind Krishna carrying a water pot on her head and a chamar in her hand. In this way she always remains absorbed in ecstatic love while constantly serving Sri Radha. Interesting thing to see. Reminds me once I saw on Gordon Prickam, I saw one lady was walking and she had a water pot on her head. She's walking from Govindakund to Anur. Many people that carry water there for some reason. Maybe for bathing or deities, I can't say. And she had a water pot on her head, and her left hip she had a baby. And her right hand she was holding a small rope with a goat on the end of it. So she's holding a baby on this side and a goat on a leash with the right hand and carrying a water pot and talking to her girlfriend. So she was fully engaged. All of her hands and feet and everything was engaged in some type of seva. And this is the vision we see here, that there's no such thing as idleness. Idleness in the spiritual world. Because Brajadam is called Braja. Brajadam. The word Braj means to move. Sarvadharman Prityaja Mamekam Sharanam Braja. So Braj means to go, to move. You surrender to Krishna. Sarvadharman Prityaja Mamekam Sharanam Braja. Braj. One should move his mind towards the lotus feet of God. One should move his body towards the lotus feet of God. And one should move his heart towards the lotus feet of God. And that's called Sharanam. Sri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Let Bhagavan Eki Sharanam. Krishna is telling in Gita, Sarvadharman Prityaja Mam Ekam Sharanam Braja. We should only move under one shelter. For example, if it's raining in the monsoon time, you'll open your umbrella and you'll move everywhere underneath that umbrella. You won't sometimes put the umbrella over your head and move with the umbrella like that, and sometimes move like this, holding the umbrella to the side, because you'll get drenched head to toe. So you always keep your head under the shelter of the umbrella's protective covering of the nylon waterproof material. So similarly, wherever you move, you're moving in the rain under the shelter. So the rains of Maya, the rains of illusion are always falling on our head. It's always raining on our head. Doubt, confusion, misconception, laziness, bewilderment, and the own regurgitation of our collective anarthas and aparats that are bubbling and boiling in the kettle of our hearts. They are distracting and disturbing us in various ways, so we need to always move. Eka Sharanam, Ekam Sharanam Braja. Krishna says, Ekam Sharanam. Ek means one. There should be one shelter for every human being. That's God. God is my only shelter. Even Christians, everyone, they say this. There's no other shelter in this world than God. Because only God can claim that He's with you everywhere at every moment. No husband, father, security force, security guard, policeman, private forces, anyone can claim that they are with their master at every moment, at every second, in every place. Even the security guard of the president doesn't go to the toilet with the president. I don't think so. I think the water closet is private. And so at that moment, he can get shot. There was once a devotee who was dealing in real estate on behalf of the temple. He went to the bathroom to call nature, and there was a gunda in the bathroom, in the rafters of the bathroom, with a gun. Because he was a mafia, property mafia, hitman. And my friend, devotee friend, he went to answer the call of nature, and then that gunda hiding up there, tong, shot him in the back. But somehow it just missed his spinal column, came out through his leg, a few shots, and he survived. Now he's preaching the glories of Abhay Bhakti, fearless Bhakti around the world. And his name is Kadamba Kanana Swami. You may have heard the name of this person. So he's definitely of a fearless type. And this shows it, even that you need a guard in the bathroom. But Krishna is there. Where was the security guard for that devotee at that time? Where was the special forces and his own revolver? Even the biggest gunda, I doubt he takes his pistol to the bathroom. He goes into the bathroom with his pistol. But Krishna is there in the heart to protect the devotee everywhere, in any circumstance, day or night. So he's the only shelter. So now back to Braj. Braj is a place where everyone is moving. Everyone's moving and following somebody. Everyone is moving, following somebody that's moving. That's Braj. Very interesting point. Brajadam is where everyone is moving, following someone's movements. For example, Krishna is moving. And who is causing the movement of Krishna? The cows. The cows cause the movement of Krishna. And what causes the movements of the cows? The movements of their stomachs. It's called hunger pain. So the cows are hungry for grass, so they move, they wander, they pasture, gosha, from here to there. They gobble up all the grass. You can imagine how much grass 9 lakhs of cows eats every day. And how much grass the 7 lakhs of Vrishabhana's cows eat every day. That's a lot of grass. So the land becomes denuded, becomes devoid of grass in one particular area, so they have to move. Eat all the grass in Nandagram, go to Gokul. Eat all the grass. It takes about 2.5 years to eat all the grass. So Krishna appeared in Gokul, and the cows spent 2.5 years eating up all the grass in Gokul. Then Krishna said, well, time to move. Because the cows are moving with their voices. Let's go. So everyone packed up their wagons and they crossed the Yamuna and they went to Chatikar and gobbled up all the grass from Chatikar to Radhakund. Now it took about 2.5 years, and Krishna was about 7. And then they moved to Nandagaon, up by Barsana. And then it's a vast area, it goes from Nandagaon all the way, extends all the way to Rajasthan, to Kamyavan, and all the way to Shirgar, and big area. Lots of grass. So then the cows stayed there for many years eating the grass. So wherever the cows moved, Nanda Maharaj, the whole clan, Nanda Maharaj's whole clan would move with the cows. And when Krishna would move in the morning to go with the cows would move in the morning, Krishna would move, and all the Brijvasis would move behind Krishna. They all walk behind him. And when they're walking, as this gopi, this Mandri is walking behind Krishna, she's moving. Krishna's moving and she's moving. But she's not moving in an idle way. She's busy doing something. Like sometimes you see a grandmother, or she's sitting in a chair, and she's not just sitting there, she's watching a soap opera and knitting a sweater at the same time. So she's watching, keeping track of that whatever's going on there, that thing. And then she's knitting a sweater for her grandson and thinking of him. So she's very busy, her hands are busy, her eyes are busy, her heart is busy. And in this way, you see the mantras, we can ask ourselves, whenever, in any given moment, whenever we can stop and say, what am I doing now? What is my service? where is my mind moving? Is my mind moving to the shelter of Krishna? Mam ekam sharanam vraj. Is my mind moving in Braj? Braj means Brajadam. The mind is always moving. That's one thing that never stops moving. Even when you die, the mind keeps moving. The mind says, come on, let's go. And the body says, I'm dead. He says, oh, useless. Okay, I'm going without you. So the mind says, you stay here. I'm getting burned up or whatever. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm busy. I'm out of here. So the mind leaves the body. And the soul says, wait a minute. Take me too. This body stinks now. So then the soul jumps on the chariot of the mind, Manaratena, and they take off. Look for another body. They start cruising around. Karmano devane trena deho tapanta. The arrangement of the devas and Paramatma and our karma, we get another body. It's in third canto of Bhagavatam. So moving, so we can ask ourselves at any given time, is our mind moving to Braj? Braj means moving. Is it moving in the shelter of Krishna? So this example, this Gopi here, is teaching so many nice points. She's busy. She's not idle. Is our mind moving to Krishna? And what are my hands doing now? My hands engaged in Krishna's service? And can I do more? For example, someone is traveling and they're going from Delhi to Calcutta to go on a yatra to Mayapur to visit Navadvip Dham. So that itself is seva. They're sitting on the plane, they're moving, and they're going there. But how busy are the devotees? In their hand is japamala, and they're chanting japa, and maybe they're reading some shastra, and they're just they're absorbing every aspect of themselves in Krishna's service. They're thinking, oh, are my hands engaged? We read in the 9th canto of Bhagavatam about Amrish Maharaj. Every part of his body was engaged in the service of Krishna. It's not enough. Like someone says, look, my hands are engaged. I'm moving the mala. My fingers are moving. Passing the tulsi beads through my fingers, my joints of my fingers. And my tongue is moving. My ears are catching some sound. So I'm engaged. What about the mind? The mind is a vast, unlimited region. And what about the heart? Heart and mind can also be engaged. And then sometimes if we're restless or not patient, and we can walk. Then if we walk, we may walk on the roof or on the street of Bombay or anywhere. But then we should be thinking, I'm not walking on the roof, I'm walking on Giriraj Parikramā. So I'm walking. So I'm going to the park to take a walk and look at the swans and the lake and the deer and deer park and see the people in their clothes and this and that. No, that world is not interesting or purifying. Contacting a material world doesn't purify us unless it becomes an udipan to remember the spiritual world. The material world becomes purified when we use it to remember Krishna. Anything becomes pure when it reminds us of Krishna. So this Gopi, she's walking behind Krishna, she's carrying a water pot and a chamar. I don't think she's carrying a water pot in her head, I want to correct that. She has a small tray, and on that tray there's a pot for drinking water, and probably a cup, because there's a chamar also. So we can understand that it must be summertime, because chamar is not used in the winter. So there may be some flies or maybe warm, so she's waiting to do some service of fanning Shamsundar with chamar seva. Or if he becomes thirsty due to the fatigue of heat of walking, then she's ready to offer him some water. So obviously both her hands are engaged. One hand is a chamar, the other hand is a tray with a water pot. And her mind is totally thinking of the Lord and attentive to the Lord. And she remains in ecstatic love while serving Radha. So you can see here that very much, it's not only that manjaris are absorbed, although people sometimes say, oh, if we become Radha Dasya and we're Manjari Sakhi of Radharani, what about our Krishna consciousness? What about our seva to Krishna? But in this one verse, there's the service of the Yugal. Because we meditate not on Krishna alone and Krishna consciousness, nor do we meditate on Radha alone, but we meditate on Radha Krishna consciousness, Radha Govinda Yuga consciousness. Because we worship Radha Govinda Yuga. We don't have any temples in ISKCON where there's only Krishna. There's always Shakti is always there. Radha and Krishna, Sita and Ram. So we worship them together. So in the one verse she's worshipping and serving Krishna, and in the same verse she's worshipping Radha. So this is the nice idea here to remind us how much more we can engage our body, mind, and senses, kaya, mana, vakya, in the service of Krishna. And the more we engage everything we have in the service of Krishna, the sooner we become liberated. Iha yasya haridasya karmanam asagira. There's this verse where Padma says that Jiva Muktasya Uchate. Says that Jiva becomes liberated from the tabernacle of the body by engaging all his working senses and knowledge-acquiring senses in the service of Krishna. Karmana manasa gira. His karmana means his knowledge-acquiring senses, his working senses, because they're all moving and acting. Manasa means the mind, the sixth sense. Karmana manasa gira. Iha yasya haridasya, haridas. In the service of Lord Hari, his mind, his words, and his activities. That's quite active. Your working senses are your hands, legs, stomach, and all these aspects are there. So now the next verse is about the manjaris also. Shravam Shravam Ati Smarakula Ridos Tasta Raha Sundaras Tasta Sundarajistigatra Vikritish Tasta Vichitrastayo Vidagdir Navasangameshu Madarastasta Vichitrajahir Vikshananda Maharasoch Chalananto Nangani Dartam Shamam. The Pransaki of Radharani cannot control herself as she floats in the waves of transcendental ecstasy, resulting from hearing the secret conversations of the most passionate divine young couple, and from seeing the symptoms of ecstatic love and wonderful conjugal pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So in this verse, Tunga Vidyasaki is glorifying the intimate, the great access to intimacy that the manjaris of Radha have. That they are privy to her most private, confidential pastimes. And this is a rare experience to close glimpse of the conjugal affairs of the divine couple, Radha and Krishna. And it's interesting here, it's not mentioned, but it says that she, at least in this translation, I'll read to another one. She can't control herself in the waves of transcendental ecstasy. Of course, maybe she doesn't have any particular service at that moment. But in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami Pad says that the devotees, the nature of seva, the nature of Krishna's seva, service, in the spiritual world, is that it's full of bliss. One becomes overwhelmed in waves of transcendental ecstasy. It says here that she's overwhelmed in waves of transcendental ecstasy. And as a result, sometimes the devotees, while they're serving Krishna, because ecstasy means it's an anubhav. Their hearts are full of love for Krishna, as their sthaivati. And occasionally, due to absorption in Krishna's beautiful form and qualities and pastimes, their love in their heart becomes so stirred and moved that they start experiencing newer waves of attachment, and then they express, outwardly they express bhavas, anubhavs, and sattvic vikara, transformations of sattva. This is not sattva as we know it, sattva gun, this is vishuddha sattva. Transcendental, this is the Sarup Shakti, the action of the Sarup Shakti. Vishuddha sattva is the Sarup Shakti of Krishna, Ladini Sandini. This acts on the hearts of the parishads and associates of the Lord, which is Krishna's own energy. Then they start, these bhavas express themselves, ashta sattvic vikara. And there's 8 transformations due to the stimulation of Sarup Shakti. And one of them is they start trembling. Tears and trembling. Romancha kampa sutranga bhajo. Mandegarosri charanavindam. These are symptoms of bhav. A guru sometimes, in his experience of the Lord, in his meditation and seva, then he's overtaken by different anubhavas. And they come out as his love manifests newer tastes and rasa, then all the different aspects of his loving mood towards the Lord become thrilled and excited. So in Nectar Devotion it says the devotees are serving the Lord and the ecstasy overwhelms their heart and they start trembling. An example is given as Daruka. Daruka drives Krishna's chariot, and sometimes in the Sudharma assembly I'll see fans the Lord with a chamra, that we just heard. When he's fanning the Lord, he's very attentive and admiring the Lord. As he admires the beauty and becomes absorbed in the beauty of the Lord, he starts to melt in that sweetness. Because when one focuses on one aspect of Krishna, his name, his form, his qualities, or his pastimes, they're all unlimitedly sweet. And sweetness has a tendency to intoxicate one, as you may know. If you want to find out, take 1 liter of sweet rice. Or eat 1 kilo of sweets, and you'll see how much sweetness can intoxicate. Because sweetness can intoxicate you in a sattvic and rajasic way when it's sugar. But if sweetness is fermented, then sweetness becomes what? Alcohol. Because you make alcohol from sugar, fermented sugar, fructose, with fruits or flowers and sugar. Then it also creates an intoxication, but it's tamasic intoxication. So sugar, so when the devotee is absorbed in fanning the Lord like Daruka and Dwarka, and he's looking at his Lord and he's fanning, he starts drinking the unlimited sweetness of Krishna through his eyes of devotion, and his eyes of seva, bhava, Christi. And then he gets intoxicated. And he starts trembling. And as he's trembling, he drops the chamra on the ground. And then the Lord becomes disturbed, because the Lord may be speaking to Rukmini and relishing some conversation or watching some drama. And the Lord, his attention goes to the inattentive servant. So the devotees, they curse the ecstasy. They say, "Oh, ecstasy, go from here. Don't make me drop this chamra. Don't make me distract me from my service or diminish my absorption in the Lord's service for 1 minute, which may, for that moment, distract him or disturb him or displease him." This is their intensity. So here, Tungavedya Sakhi, Prabhupada Saraswati, the author, is glorifying that unique, grand fortune of the Pran Sakhis of Radharani, that so we're thinking that, well, he says here, that Manjri is unable to control herself in the waves of transcendental ecstasy. And I was thinking, this is dangerous. Because if you're driving your car and you go into an epileptic fit, then of course you may crash your car. That's the end of your driving. And maybe the end of your life. So you have to control yourself, obviously. So, but then let's go on further. He said, why was she in these waves of transcendental ecstasy? Because she heard the secret conversations. The Surata Kathamritam. Surata Kathamritam. The nectarian love talks, confidential love talks between the lover and beloved at times of union in the kunja. So she's there, and I guess her only service at that time is to listen. Her service is to listen, shravana. Someone says, Prabhu, what is your service? Listening. I am just listening. Hey, get out there, sell books, make money, that's service. No, I'm listening 24 hours a day. I'm hearing tapes and listen to that. Oh, Harikata. Very good. Go back to Godhead that way. That's by listening. Did Parikshit Maharaj go back to Godhead by listening? Yes. The Shravana Dasha, the process, the Dasha of Shravana. And then one devotee, he sat in the temple and he was just chanting, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And all the other devotees said, Guru Maharaj, he's only chanting. He's not going out and doing Harinam, he's not going out to beg alms for the temple, he's not begging food and grains and oil for the temple, or picking flowers. He just sitting in the corner, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And the devotees ganged up on him and complained to the Guru. And the Guru said, he will go back to Godhead simply by chanting Krishna's holy names. Leave him alone. I have given him the name Akinchana Krishna Das. And he's a disciple of my Param Guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati gave him one order when he was leaving his body. He said, Akinchana Das, Krishna Das, your service is to go from temple to temple and visit your godbrothers and chant Hare Krishna. And that's all he did. He passed his life chanting Hare Krishna. We met him a few times, 78, 79. And if you would ask him any questions, he would say, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. That's all. There was no answers, only one. Because he was happy, because he was serving Bala and Krishna and Madhavanga and Sakyabala. He's a coward boy. And they're one, as you saw in these little Krishna movies and all the goofy things these kids do. So they're always having fun and laughing, just laughing all the time, eating and laughing and playing. That's all Gopal does. He eats and laughs and plays at everyone else's expense. but he plays so charmingly and so innocently and so lovingly that even if he breaks your yogurt pot, even if he messes up your house with butter-stained footprints all over the floor, and even if he unties your calves and lets them drink all the milk from your cows in the Goshala, you don't care, you don't become angry, because Krishna did it, Gopal did it. And even if he latches your door in the morning when nature calls, and you can't get out of your house to pass, still you don't become angry at little Krishna. Because Krishna latched your door, not somebody else. So in this way, at the expense of others, Krishna's laughing and others are laughing also. They're laughing and crying, they're experiencing so many emotions. Because Krishna just laughing, hasyaras, in the context of Sakya. But the elderly gopis and mothers that he's pranking on, as a prankster, they're laughing and crying, they're happy, they're angry, many emotions they're experiencing, so their heights of ecstasy is tremendous. Because the more emotions you experience, the more delightful is the more emotions and rasas you taste, the more delightful is your experience. So in one sense, they were not the losers by any chance, getting their yogurt pots broken, and a big mess in their house, and monkeys running around all the house, jumping. You can imagine if you ever had monkeys get in your house. when the monkeys get in your house, they like to jump off the walls and they go on the rafters and hang upside down and bound off the walls. So you'll come in your house and you'll see fingerprints, little monkey fingerprints, handprints, 10 feet high in the wall. You say, how did he get there? Then you try to imagine with your logic. I guess he stood on the fan, on the fan, and he jumped off the fan and landed on the. There were even handprints on the ceiling. I mean, they can go anywhere. And now just that's okay. It's a little dust or a little oil from their grimy palms. But imagine if they just ate like 2 kilos of butter. And Krishna broke the pot and there's butter all over the floors. There's butter all over their hands and feet. And they jump all over your walls and butter stained. So even if Krishna makes your walls like that, you don't become angry. You just laugh and cry. And there's anger, a little bit of anger naturally, and then anger, then embarrassment, and many, many feelings the elderly gopis feel. So this is Krishna. So now this verse here, she's unable to control herself because she's hearing this secret talks. And she's seen the symptoms of ecstatic love and wonderful conjugal pastimes of Shiva and Krishna. So she may be, this particular Sakhi, one Sakhi is standing outside the Keli Kunj, the pastime grove, forest grove, and she's pulling on a fan of vines and other natural arrangements. Some ceiling fan is inside the kunj going like this. Like you see in some temples, they have these cloth fans, like in Bhakti Bihari. All the temples used to have them, but now they went with the electric fan. If you look close in all the old temples, you see one hole. Usually in the center of the altar, up high, you'll see one hole with a pulley on it, like a round wheel. And that used to go, that rope would go over that hole, and then there's a hook on the ceiling hanging down, there'd be a fan there. And then the Pujari would sit outside and pull the rope. I've seen it many times, and I saw that they had that rope, and then they went to electric fan. And they don't have that anymore. You see in Varsana, in different places, they have this arrangement. The rope, because we're sitting here, and the rope goes like this, and it goes in a hole, and it goes about 10 feet high. You can imagine, like a pulley. You pull it, and the wheel goes like this. So one Sakhi Manjari may have that seva, so she's pulling and looking. Another Sakhi may be just sitting next to her looking. So this is here. She's not afraid of dropping that fan or breaking that service. She's just relishing this great ecstasy. We can read that another translation, this verse from another book. Everyone's celebrating New Year's in a different way. And this is a Christian New Year's. Indian New Year's is in April or something, isn't it? April? Chaitra, I think, Vaishakha. Ultimately, every day is new. Every day is a new year. The night you die, when you wake up, it's like a new life. Sleeping is like pralaya. Waking is like Shristi. Shristi pralaya, Shristi pralaya. Vishnu exhales or Shristi, he inhales or pralaya. And lasts for millions of years. So we exhale our last and we close our eyes, and this conscious life dies. It's pralaya. And a whole other subtle life begins. And then we close our eyes on that lila and open our eyes on this lila. And that's Shristi. So this verse is telling here another translation. Oftentimes we get slightly different twist on the points here. I read, sometimes a Manjari expertly makes arrangements for Sri Shamasundar's sporting pastimes. The Manjari arranges a great festival of transcendental pastimes with dark complexion Lord Krishna. Well, that's, he says Shamsun. Carrying golden vessels of fan or other articles. And that's that water pot, golden vessel, water pot. a fan or other articles. She follows glorious Radha, who, whether Radha speaks or remains silent, always serves her wishes. Who continually plunges Radha's lover into great transcendental bliss. Please meditate on this gopi in this way. So, just meditate on yourself, because it's just a generic meditation on Madhuri. So it's very interesting, whether Radharani speaks, orders, or remains silent, she always serves her wishes. The Manjari, without, as I mentioned, 90% of the communication in the spiritual world goes heart to heart. 9% of the communication goes eye to eye. And 1% of the communication is by speech. That's a very interesting communication system. Mass media, what I call the media, mass media. So that wouldn't work very well in this modern world. 90% is heart-to-heart telepathy. And then 9% is eye movements. Radha Kripa Kataksha. And then there's subdivisions in that. In the 9% eye movements, and the eye is divided into 4 parts. One part of the eye is... Anyway, that's a whole other technical discussion. But then, actual words and Vrndavana language, audible language is only 1% of communication of all ideas. Because it's a bhav world. It's a world of bhav. It's a world of prema. Prema and bhav have their own language. They don't need eyes, they don't need words, they just need people. If there's people, we've seen sometimes people that don't even speak the same language, they're married. I've met people. I met Indians that are married to Russians. They speak Hindi, the wife speaks Russian, but somehow they have a son. So this is an amazing thing to me. And I said, how do you communicate? They say, it goes on. Somehow it goes on. Hard to imagine. Or imagine we have that friend in Govardhan. His wife is deaf and dumb. He's a Brahmin, he's a Pujari. And he speaks, but his wife doesn't speak or hear. But they're married and have a son. And everything's going on. So it's amazing how much can be done with so few words. No words. And she's not unhappy because she can't speak. And she's not unhappy because she can't hear. Because what does that actually prove? That proves that actually everything is going on between the mind and the Atma. The senses are just an appendage to the mind. They aren't essential. The senses are an appendage to the mind, they aren't essential. What's essential is Atma and mind. Because with Atma and mind you can do everything. And obviously you're embodied because we're in this world. So the Atma and the mind and the embodiment, the casing of that Atma and mind gives additional expression of the movements and feelings of the mind and heart. So we observe that in this deaf and dumb Brahmin wife interacting with her husband. She's raising her son. Everything's going on by mind. You've heard of mind power, mental power. Because we're so externalized and we live in a world of external phenomena. But there's a whole other world, the mental world. The mental world, and even that there are beings that only live in the mental world. We live in the mental world and the physical world. There's the mental world, the physical world, the mental world, and the metaphysical world. The physical mental world is our experience, earthlings, human beings, manush. But then there's pretas, pishachas, boots, and what those other ones? It begins with a V. I forget. There's a whole there's about 10 or 12 classes of beings that live in the mental world. They don't have physical world, they have mental, they live in the mental world. And they have rather odd-looking forms in the mental world. Just like when you dream, sometimes you see odd forms in your dreams. Monsters, or yourself looking strange with two heads, or snakes coming out of your ears or something. Some type of strange form. So this is another idea to think about. How we get from the gopis to this. You have to figure out the takeoff point. But the main thing is when you launch a spaceship, you try to bring it back to the same country. If you launch a spacecraft from America and it lands in Russia, they won't appreciate it too much. So you have to have enough intelligence to make a navigation system and bring it back at least to the waters surrounding your own country. And usually the spacecrafts, they land in the Atlantic Ocean or something. That's some spacecraft about to land, looking for some clearance. So this is text 62, and that's 63, no 64. Please meditate. So he's telling us, he's our Mahajan Acharya, he's telling us to meditate. So are we following his teachings? Mahajana yena katha sapanta. Again and again, hearing each other's words in a secluded place, gazing at the wonderful signs of love on each other's bodies, and each other's wonderful, splendid, sweet skill and amorous pastimes. The divine couple cannot stop the nectar waves of bliss flooding from their limbs. But this is interesting, this translation, because we heard that the other translation of the same Sanskrit is that she can't control herself due to the ecstasy of hearing these intimate love conversations and seeing the symptoms of ecstatic love. It's basically the same, but it's more specific. The wonderful signs of love on each other's bodies. So that doesn't really need to be commented on. But the point is that the mantris, they're so fortunate that Radharani doesn't feel any embarrassment or disturbance as one normally would if someone was privately enjoying with their beloved. They certainly wouldn't want a third person there. They say in America, 2 is company, 3 is a crowd. Crowd means too many. So what's private and confidential is private and confidential. It's not public space. But for Radharani, because the mantris, they're not considered public to Radharani. They're not considered outward to Radharani. The mantri sakhis, they're called pran sakhis, very significant term. There's 5 types of sakhis, 5 types of gopis that serve Radha and Krishna. And one category is called nitya sakhis, nitya or pran sakhis. So there's nothing more private, intimate, individual or personal than your pran, your own life force. So these sakhis, these are your girlfriends. Sakhi means girlfriend. These young girls that are 2 years younger than Radharani, they're her pran. So therefore they're inseparable from her. As much as they're they're intimately connected with Radharani's private space, with her private space of the beloved. When lovers and beloveds are together, they're alone. Or sometimes someone might say, oh, I think they want to be alone. They have a phrase like that. Oh, you should. I think they want to be alone. Let's go now. And maybe some people together and they see and they say, oh, looks like so-and-so, they want to be alone. Let's go. Okay, we'll see you. Bye. And so then, because that's the nature, that there's such a confidential exchange of intimate sharing of hearts and minds and bodies in the conjugal love of Madhurya Rati. But the manjaris are not different from Radharani. Just like manjari, literally the word manjari means the bud of a flower. A flower bud in Sanskrit is called a manjari. So you have a lata, you have a creeper, and it has pata, lata pata, has a leaf, and it has a flower, and it has fruits, and it makes fruits. Most creepers, many creepers, they don't make fruits, they make flower. And then flower closes and makes some seed. They're just a seed, but there's no real fruit there, as we would know it, very tiny. So now, at any given time, on a lata, you have a leaf, and you have a flower, and you have a bud. So, because there's different stages of development, if you look at a tree, a mango tree, you'll see some yellow mangoes, and you'll see some green mangoes on the same tree, fruits. Why? Because they haven't ripened yet. The fruits are ripening at different stages. And you may even see a fruit comes and on another side of the tree there's still a flower. So the flowers are on this lata, like bhakti lata, right? The bhakti lata. So now the flowers are there, and then the flower bud, before the flower opens up, it's closed. It's called a bud. A budding flower is closed. And there's no fragrance there, and there's no color there. It's just closed. But it's maybe very close to the flower. So when a honeybee comes, the Brahmar, comes to land on the flower, he weighs something. A bumblebee, he's kind of fat, these Brahmars, Sham Sundar blue, dark, shiny, iridescent blue, these big fat ones. They land on the flower, and they land on the flower shakes, the lata shakes, and the manjaris shake. Because they're all connected to the lata, to the vine, the stem of the vine, the pata, the leaf, the bud, and the flower. And so, when the flower is shaking, then the manjari is shaking. So this analogy, the flower in this case, is the flower of Radharani's face, her Swarna Mukha, her golden face, Swarna Padma Mukha, golden lotus face. And the honeybee, the Brahmar, is Shamsundar Brahmar. He lands at bumblebee of Madhusudan, one who drinks sweet nectar, honey drinker. Sudha means nectar and Madhu means honey, sweet, shad. One who drinks the nectar of honey from the lips of Radha is Madhusudan. So he lands there, he's taking that nectar from the flower, which means he's kissing Radharani's face, and the manjaris are trembling and feeling ecstatic. And maybe at that time, that bumblebee speaks something to Radharani, and that bumblebee is extracting or relishing the nectar of her face. And the manjari is right next door. They're close, and she's listening. And the flower doesn't have any problem. Oh, manjari, go away. She can't go away, because she's connected. She's on the same lata. So that's the bhakti lata, that's the prem lata of Radharani. Radharani is compared to a prem lata turu. She's a prem lata, and Krishna is prematuru. Prematuru. Premataru means tree, and lata means. So it's prematataru. So that when that lata of Radharani, the creeper is wrapped around the tree, that is the analogy. That golden creeper is wrapped around that Swarna lata is wrapped around the Sham Tamal tree. And this is the beautiful Radha Krishna Lingata, Prema Lingata. The embrace of Radha and Krishna is like a golden creeper wrapped around a Sham, black, darkish Tamal tree, the trunk of the Tamal tree. So the manjaris are so intimate with Radharani that they can hear these talks and experience these ecstasies, and they can see the marks, bites or scratches left by the intimate conjugal pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And Radharani, as you don't feel any disturbance by your prana. Your prana is maintaining your life. It's essential to you. The prana is essential to you, it's part of you. Without the prana you can't live. So the Pransaki mantras are essential. They're essential to Radharani. They're a part of Radharani. Without the mantras, Radharani can't live. In fact, the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, Krishna's Kaviraj says, they cannot go on without the nourishment. The Sakis and mantras, they have a very positive contribution to nourish and expand the transcendental ecstatic Madhurya Leela of Radha and Krishna and Braj. It says they cannot be nourished to full satisfaction without the presence and savor of the mantras of Radharani. It's a very elevated, wonderful service the mantras have. So, let's see. I think that was, there's one. In this way, while continuously remembering the lotus feet of Sri Radha, while satisfying the tongue by constantly drinking the nectar of chanting the holy names of Sri Radha and Krishna, and while taking shelter of severe renunciation, gradually give up all association with women and those who are attached to women. Only a most fortunate person can reside in Vrindavan. So here, of course, the male, the author, who's in a male form in Gaur Lila, Prabhupada Saraswati, is addressing all the sadhakas and babajis, mostly males, in Vrindavan, doing bhajan. But if one is, of course, in female gender, then they would say, gradually give up association with men and those who are attached to men. Only the most fortunate person can reside in Vrindavan. So he's obviously, a very interesting point I want to make here. The Sanskrit is Evam Nityam Anusmaran. Evam Nityam Anusmaran. Remember, moment after moment, forever. Nitya means forever. Anu means moment after moment, step by step. Lila by lila, yama by yama, nishant yam, and then pratak yam, and then purvan yam, and madhyan yam, and apurvan yam, and shayan yam, pradosh yam, and ratri yam. Yama means kala, astakali, astayama. Anu smaran, remember, one by one. First you remember the pratak, the nishant lila goranga, meditating on your Gaur Sarup, and then meditating on Leela, then you meditate on Krishna, Vrindavan Sarup, Gopi Deha, then you meditate on Krishna's Nishant Leela, then Pratak Leela, then Pratak Leela. This is the system. Evam Nityam Anusmaran Anusaran. Anusaran, Radha Padam Boru. Anusaran, and take shelter, Radha Padam Boru. Take shelter of the ocean of nectar, the lotus feet of Radha. Anusaran Radha Padam Boruha. Chayam Mevatayo Sadeva Rasanam. Sadeva Rasanam Namamrite Purayan. Sadeva. Kirtaniya Sadahari. Rasanam Namamritam. Rasana means the tongue. The tongue should always be relishing the nectar of Nam. Rasanam. Rasana means the tongue. Always the tongue should be relishing Namamrita. I think there was a book compiled by my godbrother named Shivananda Das years ago, like this paperback book. It said Sri Namamrita. Have you ever seen this one? And it was all kinds of quotations about the holy name from Prabhupada's purports and verses. Very nice book. I don't know if it's still in print. Purayan, always relishing the nectar. Stri tat sangi vidur. Vidur, very far. It's like Hindi, dur. Dur, no, very, very dur. Vidur, no, very, very dur. Stay very far away from men if you're a woman, and very far away from women if you're a man. Stri tat sangi. Stri, that sangi. Vichar, you should think deeply about this and consider this. Yukta tatham ayam. Yukta means Vairagyam kramasho vasat yati kriti yat atra vrndavane. It's nice. I'll get to that point I mentioned in a second. Another translation. Externally meditating on Sri Radha, taking shelter of the shade of her lotus feet, always filling the tongue. Oh, that's a Purayan. Sadeva rasanam namamrite Purayan. Always tongue, name, nectar filling. That's how it comes out in the order of the words in Sanskrit. So always tongue, nam, nectar, pour, full. Always, sadaiva, and then goes to the end, purayan. Sadaiva, always what? Rasana, your tongue. Namamrite, purayan. But the tongue, our jiva, our tongue, should always be filled with the nectar of Krishna's holy name. Sometimes it's not, I think. Sometimes some other nonsense fills our tongue. And it's not very tasty to anyone, to us or to anyone else. Then, staying far away from women and men attached to women, considering their company poison. Now that's getting serious now. A little more forceful than this one. Stri tat sangi vidur eva vicharam yukat tatam dayam. I don't see poison there. Anyway. And performing austerities, the saintly devotee resides here in Vrindavan. So here we have Rag Bhajan in a nutshell. Asat Sanga Tyag. It's talking about association. It's talking about personal detachment, association, chanting the holy name and meditating. This is Rag Bhajan. And living in Vrindavan. Mathura Mandala Vas, Mathura Mandala Stale Vas, to live in Mathura Mandala, to live in Vrindavan, and to engage in Nam Sankirtan while meditating on Radha Krishna's Leela, performing austerities to pacify and settle the mind and make it peaceful by austerities and self-control, and avoiding asat sangha, Sri Bhakta, so non-devotees and materialistic people, and be absorbed in remembering the lotus feet of Radha, and drink the nectar of chanting names of Radha and Krishna. Yugal Nam, Nam. So this is the bhajan. It's Nam bhajan, Nam Smaran bhajan. Nam Smarana Bhajan. Nam and Smaran, supported by detachment and the proper position, the proper vas. Very important where we serve. So we have to create Vrindavan wherever we are. It's very interesting to note that Jiva Goswami was the nephew of Rupa and Sanatan. His uncles, they lived in East Bengal, in Bangladesh, what we call Bangladesh, and the village of Ramkeli, and very far from Vrindavan, but they were devotees of Radha and Krishna from birth, Rupa and Sanatan. They would daily study the Bhagavatam, so they knew all about Vrindavan. They knew all about the places of Vrindavan. They studied Puranas, Padma Purana, Skanda Purana. There's Vishnu Purana, they talk about Radhakund and Govardhan, all these places are there. So they established in their environment where they lived, they established a replica of Vrindavan. They had Radhakund there, and Govardhan there, and Shamakund and everything. And in their play, when they were 3, 4, or 5 years old, they said, oh, come on, let's bathe in Radhakund, let's go to Govardhan. So they established their place of bhajan as Vrindavan. And they lived in a very austere and self-controlled way. And they spent their time chanting the holy name and meditating on the pastimes of Radha and Krishna and always speaking about them. This is how Rupa and Sanatan grew up. So we may not be able to live in this geographic or transcendental abode of Vrindavan in this India, or wherever we are, we should do that. So now we can see that this whole series of verses here in the 9th Shataka, from began in verse 55 to 65, was all about the Rag Bhajan, the Smarna Anga Bhajan, for the Raghunaga Sadhaka. How he's so much absorbed in meditating on Radha Krishna's pastimes, especially focusing on Radharani's happiness and pleasure, by rendering a variety of intimate personal services for the pleasure of her body, mind, and her happiness, by arranging to meet Krishna. So many wonderful services we heard. And we also, many verses were directing us how to meditate on the Siddhadeha, the spiritual form of the Gopi Manjari. And he's recommending all this. Then he's saying, thus, as I told you, you should. So he wraps it, this verse, he wraps it all up. It's very clear that this is an instruction to sadhakas. This is an instruction to those that are endeavoring for love of God. They're trying to come to the platform of prema, of perfection in human life. That these are activities for those who have greed, lobha, divine greed, to love Radha and Krishna in this mood of Madhurya. Then these are the instructions for them. This is the book for them, Vrndavana Mahimamrta. And it's a very wonderful book. And it's interesting that he himself, as Jiva Goswami and all of his predecessors and contemporary acharyas, they say it's a two-pronged approach. Smarnam, bhajan. It's smarnam, meditating and remembering Krishna's Astakali Leela and his Madhurya Leelas with gopis and Krishna, Radha. At the same time, the foundation and the platform which one enters that realm of remembrance of meditation is rasanam. Of course, that alone gives some type of, well, it says amritam. Amritam, nectar, in terms of bhakti, is experienced at the level of bhav. We taste nectar at the level of bhav. Anything else is an abhas. It's a reflection of that nectar. Because the nectar we taste is called Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. No, this book is there. What's it called? Bhakti Ras Amrita Sindhu. So that book by Rupa Goswami Pad is teaching a sadhaka how to come from Vaidhi sadhana to Raghunaga sadhana to bhav and then prema. Separate aspect of bhav. So obviously the goal of the book, like the book may be titled How to Build a Car, or How to Build a Sailboat. Say build a sailboat, how to make a sailboat. So now the purpose of that book is to teach you how to make a sailboat. Not just to get some boards and cut them. You have to do all the steps of that book, and then the conclusion of that book, the purpose of writing that book is so you can, in your backyard, can build a sailboat. A noka, whatever you call it. Now the purpose of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is so how that the reader, the sadhaka, Rupa Goswami is teaching how to attain bhav, love of God. And when you attain love of God, then you experience Amrit, Bhakti Rasamrita. So Vrndavana Mahimamrta by Prabhupada Saraswati, he's saying that we should chant Sadeva Rasanam Namamrite Purayam, that we should constantly chant, drink the nectar of chanting Krishna's name, the names of Radha and Krishna. So That Bhakti Rasamrita, that Amrit that he's talking about, Namamrit means Bhakti Rasamrit. Because we're devotees, and we're chanting, it's called devotional service, limbs of devotion. 9 limbs of devotion. Devotion means bhakti, bhakti means love, prema. So we hear with love, we chant with love, we remember with, isn't it? It's called Navavida Bhakti. Is it right? So bhakti means love. So then Amrit, when you say Namamrit, it's synonymous for Bhakti Amrit. It can't be different. It's not a separate category, Namamrit. So until there's pure Bhakti, then there can't be Amrit. That's the point. So obviously this is the devotees that can enter deeply into these pastimes and drink the nectar and that are so detached and are living in Vrindavan are those Siddha Mahatmas, those Siddha saints, those Bhavakas, those Bhava Bhaktas. But we're following their footsteps. This is called Anusara. It says Anusara. We have to take shelter. He himself is one of these devotees. Prabhupada Saraswati lived on the banks of the Yamuna, which was flowing so beautifully and forcefully by the Ghat 500 years ago, and near the Kaliya Daha. He stayed behind Kaliya Daha, the Kadamba tree. There's a Kadamba tree at Kaliya Daha, and just behind, actually next to the tree basically, because he stayed in some brambles. He didn't have a little brick building. The little brick building is only 80 years old. It commemorates Prabhupada Saraswati's Bhajan Kutir and Samadhi. But as like the standard was, he simply collected some bushes. You see some sadhu comes to town nowadays, to Govardhan or Nandagram, and you see some kind of makeshift hut. And he bends some branches this way, that way, sticks them in the ground, makes some kind of dome, some kind of roof of some structure, and then he gets some old chini boris or sugar sacks and throws them on the roof and a piece of plastic here and there, whatever he can find. And then he goes in there and that's his Bhajan Stali. And he's happy. He collects some dry wood, makes a fire in the morning, heats up his hands, and then he makes a roti or two if he's not doing Malakari. So this is the life. So Prabhupada Saraswati, he lived in a little brambles, some trees bent over and some bushes. And in those days, the trees were very much happy to be here. The trees were happy to be in Vrindavan because Vrindavan was full of devotees glorifying their Ishtadev. All the trees in Vrindavan are devotees, and devotees like to hear the glorification of the Ishtadev. If someone is chanting Hare Krishna outside someone's window, a devotee doesn't consider it a disturbance. He considers it a blessing. But the holy name is vibrating everywhere in the atmosphere. So the trees of Vrindavan 500 years ago, they're very prolific and abundant and very happy because they're all devotees. And they were regularly being embraced by the devotees, they were being served by the devotees, and moreover the devotees were chanting holy names. And the vibration of one Siddha saint chanting Shuddha Nam, it would go in so far in so many directions, and all the trees for long distances would be relishing the vibration of Shuddha Nam and growing very luxuriantly and very verdantly and full of foliage. And because of the loving reciprocation, the trees in Vrindavan, many trees, they would naturally bend over. They would grow up like this and develop a full coverage of leaves, then bend over and come back down to the ground. The tips of the trees would bend over and come back down to the ground, one branch. And another branch would go like this, another branch would go like that, and make a natural kutir. A natural kutir with a nice roof, and all the leaves would be waterproof and waxy covering, so it would be waterproof in the rainy season. And then there'd be some little opening, and anybody who would walk through Vrindavan, any Vairagi sadhu, he would see, oh, there's a natural place. Even nowadays, sometimes you go in forests and you may see some bushes and some vines growing this way, that way, when you're little kids. And we grew up in the country, and we had some property behind us was about 1,000 acres across one stream, little river. And then we would cross there and go exploring all over the place. And then we sometimes find these little brambles and all that, and we crawl and say, oh, this is a nice little clubhouse. We call it clubhouse. We didn't have the idea of Bhajan Kutia, but it's called clubhouse, little boys' clubhouse. So then you go tell your friends, hey, I found a little hangout. So we'd all go there and meet and whatever we did. Play. So the sadhus, the trees were so happy, so we can imagine this is where Prabhupada Saraswati lived. And and the trees were happy, but the trees all left. All the trees left because all the sadhus left. And they don't find any trees anymore in Vrindavan. And they're not bending down because no one wants to live like that. No one wants to live like that. And no one comes to Vrindavan just to get love of God. And when all the greatest devotees in the world, they think, if I ever go to Vrindavan, I'm going to live like a rock. I'm going to live like a plant out in the open. The greatest devotees, when they see the staggering and towering heights of Braj Bhakti and Gopi Bhav, they think, when they think about a future birth or desire a future birth, they say, I want to take birth in Vrindavan as a rock, or a pebble, or a creeper. I'll be out there in the cold. I have no roof over my head. I'm a creeper. And the cold and the rain and everything. Because I'm hoping that some Brijvasi will step on me, some gopi will step on me and bless me with a touch of her feet, or she'll walk on me. Imagine how hot the mountaintops are in the summer, and how cold they are in the winter. The Lord Brahmaji, Chaturmukh Brahma, he prayed to become a rock in Vrindavan. So he became, but he's a big personality, so he became a big rock, not a little rock. He became a Parvat. Chaturmukh Brahma became Chatur Parvat. Amangar, Vilaskar, like this. 4 hills of Varsana are the 4 heads of Brahma. All rocks. And Lord Shiva, he prayed to become a rock. He's also a big player. So he became a Parvat, because he's from Kailash, Kailashnath. So he also became a mountain over here. Yeah, he became one. So he became Nandagram. So they didn't get some AC flat with, any comfort. They became, these are demigods. And Uddhava was the eternal associate of Krishna in Dwarka and Mathura. He didn't pray to have some luxurious flat in Vrindavan. He said, I want to be a Lata over by Kusam Sarovar, stand in the freezing cold. So this is the kind of sadhus this was the standard of Vairagya. He says here, Vairagyam kramasho vasatiya kirti. You should live here with great Vairagya. But now we're very weak and lazy and we don't have much strength. And Vrindavan is so much different now. So we have to live in these houses and all these things. I can remember seeing pictures, old photographs of sadhus. And in the summer, they're just wearing kopins. They're wearing a kopin, and they're carrying a kumandala in one hand, water pot and a bead bag. Then in winter, you see the same sadhu, he has some old beat-up chadar over his shoulders, and his kopins, bas. And kopin means just underwear. So they were austere. They were very austere. At any rate, this is a very nice lessons we're hearing, and we'll hear some more lessons next Sunday, next class. Vrndavana Mahimamrta ki jai.